Hey, what's going on, guys? Absolutely beast, bringing you some Forza Motorsport 7 racing today. So this first race is with the Mercedes tank pool racing truck, and then the second race will be with the Porsche GT2 RS, which I've driven the most. I really would love to drive the GTR, the GDI, but I can't do it. I really have a hard time with the rain. Really don't like rain personally. I like how, especially in Forza Motorsport 6, the rain was separated into its own races, so you could choose to avoid them if you wanted. Not a fan of the rain at all. At least the fact that it'll be dynamic will be a little bit better. The fact that you won't always have to race in the rain, so maybe even in a rain race, only half the race is raining. But yeah, and I did turn the traction control back on. Those of you who watched my video yesterday, I raced without traction control. From what I hear, you don't need it with this truck anyway. But I just, it was kind of like a one-off type thing. It would take me a lot more driving before I can take that off. So today on the Forza Motorsport website, they released some new information about Forza 7. It's in the Forza Weekend Review for September 22nd, and I will link it in the description. So they're basically just talking about, I'm going to kind of summarize here. So they're talking about the demos here. The demo is available on the Xbox One and the Windows 10 PCs with the 3 driving experiences. And they also released their launch trailer. It says, which is a highlight reel of gorgeous cars and stunning racing action. Check it out. And then they have sort of a link here to look at that. And then we're going to talk about a topic. It says here, let's take a look at a topic I know many of you are curious about that I teased last week, which is time to talk homologation. So, this is talking about Forza 7, says we're changing the perceptions of what players expect from a racing game, whether you're talking about hundreds of cars, spanning decades of automotive history, dynamic track conditions that mean every race is a unique experience, or even the way we convey the look, sound, and feel of driving cars to their limit. For a long time, Forza fans are going even deeper than that, and are going to spend some time here talking about homologation in the game. So, for Forza 7, our goal has been to ensure that any event in the game, be it single player or online, features a wide range of cars that are competitive with one another. So, homologation is the process of upgrading or downgrading each car in the grid using strict performance regulations that even the playing field out and ensure that cars in the same division are always competitive with one another. So, in the past, there have been cars that are like leaderboard cars that everybody is using. Like you go to certain classes and there's just like 1 or 2 cars that everybody uses. And that's been pretty standard, at least over the last couple of games. And so what they're aiming to do is really try to fix that. So the homologation is going to allow them to dumb down certain things. They give a couple examples here to make sure that this doesn't have the thing. So it says, they want the choice to be the choice of which car, not a mere handful of, quote, leaderboard cars, but rather puts the choice in the hands of the player and their individual preferences. So it says here, from the start, homologation is quite different from previous Forza Motorsport games. Like in the past, the car class, which is the performance index, it remains the backbone of the system, but in previous games, you had numerous ways to reach that. And I can attest to that. So for example, if you wanted to get to R800, you could do that any way you wanted. So you could put on like street tires and just have like 900 horsepower and have good handling, braking, or you could upgrade the braking, the tires, the handling, all that stuff, and then only upgrade to say 600 horsepower. So it really allowed you a lot of variance in what you could actually do within each class. And that was, to me, that was part of the fun of it. But I could see how it would be hard to balance cars doing that. To make them all fair, but that's not really what you have to do. You don't really have to balance the cars as long as there's some sort of thing. But anyway, so it says for example, boosting horsepower to absurd levels, even if the car was still on skinny tires. And then it said these became extreme boundary cases, which made for extreme peaks and valleys in performance within any given class, and often led to leaderboard cars. So they're really challenging us in this game to tune for homologation standards across multiple performance characteristics that are just beyond the performance index. And it says this is going to naturally limit the most extreme cases, and it's going to tighten the competitive set of cars, which honestly I think is good overall. I'll kind of have to wait and see how it affects. Obviously, as would anybody, if it affects me negatively, I'll think it sucks. But if it makes it more competitive, that'll be fun. But in my opinion, the problem is that not everybody is on the same skill level. You can't expect. If you're racing in like a multiplayer race, for example, not everybody's the same skill level. So Now it says in both the Forza Drivers' Cup single-player campaign and in multiplayer events created by Turn 10, cars will be homologated to certain performance standards based on their division. These divisions can be applied in free play and private lobbies also. It'll be across several performance, so it's going to, as well as the performance index, it's going to include tire compound, tire width, and horsepower in there. And they're going to have to be able to meet specific standards. So, for example, they give the example of the GT Sport, or the Exotic GT, series might only allow sport tire compounds with, say, a max tire width of 355 and max of 750 horsepower and a ceiling of 800 in the PI rating. So, any cars that fall under those caps is eligible, but if they go over them, then they're not. So, one of the cool things they're going to do is they're going to give a button, a specific button. I imagine it like the quick upgrade, like in previous games, if you start to go into a race and it says, your car doesn't meet the standards, you can do the quick upgrade. In my opinion, it's going to be like that. You're just going to be able to click it and change it. Now, it did say also that included in the purchase price of every car is going to be all the parts you need to meet all homologation standards, so you won't have to actually spend extra money once you buy the car in order to meet those, which is pretty cool. So, yeah, I mean, that'll be interesting. It's going to be, and they say here, you really want to encourage players to have more cars to choose from within each division. Instead of having a handful of go-to cars per class, they want us to now have like a garage full of event-specific rides. They're just waiting for their turn on the track. So, I mean, if say our class, for example, there were like 3 cars to use. There was a Radical, there was in Forza 6, there was a McLaren, and there was a Ultimate GTR. So, if there's 5 cars or 6 cars that you can use to be up on the leaderboards, that's better. I can't see that being a negative thing in any way, except maybe not being able to know each car as well. So talk about the Forza rewards, which is basically where if you've played any previous Forza games, you can get rewards for playing these. You can either visit the Forza rewards website, which there's a link to in the article here, or you can go to the Forza Hub on your Xbox or the PC, which you can download. It's like an app basically. And they basically give you these tier reward levels. So there's tiers 2 all the way up through 12. 12 is not possible to reach yet. They're adding that, and it won't be possible to reach until you've played Forza 7. So that won't be reachable for a couple of weeks probably. At least like a week or 2 probably, I would think, after launch for sure. And yeah, so you get cool stuff. They talk about driver suits, specific badges, and then prize crates, which is pretty cool. So yeah, so they show a couple rewards here. They talk about different badges. And then additional note, they had introduced DLC-based stuff and token-based stuff, which is like an in-game currency, into these rewards in the past. And based on some really negative feedback they got from people, they decided to scratch that. So every player who's owned a previous game, like for example, I owned Forza Motorsport 6, so I'll actually get the maximum tier for DLC in that game just automatically. So they just made it active for everybody, so you all get that, which is pretty cool. They also released a Xbox wheel list, Xbox One wheel list here, to list all the ones that are compatible. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They got 4 Fanatec wheels, a Logitech wheel, and then let's see, 6, 7 Thrustmaster wheels, and a Mad Catz wheel. And then obviously the game pads, the controller, the 1S, 1X controller, the Elite controller, and just the standard 1 controller. And then they talk about a Forza 7 debut live stream, which is coming September 27th, which would be Wednesday. It doesn't list a time, but it does say to join them on Mixer. Oh yeah, 9 a.m. Pacific is what they say. So that's 12 Eastern and 12 p.m. Eastern. And I couldn't tell you in the European times, unfortunately. Sorry. And then they talk about the last thing. They're doing it. Well, 2 more things. They're doing a Forza-thon, a happy anniversary Forza-thon, where they're doing some events on Forza Horizon 3, which is cool. And then they have a virtual key contest for Forza 7, which is like an entry sweepstakes type of thing. Now, this is only available to people in the U.S., unfortunately. But apparently there's over $1 million in prizes and rewards. There's some cool driver gear DLC. There's VIP memberships, Hoonigan car pack, and then you can also win special edition controllers, a $500 gift card, or gift cards, and then an ultimate game delivery experience where literally like a fleet of Porsches drive to your house and deliver the game to you, and then they take you for a ride and drive you around and stuff, which, you know, that sounds kind of cool, actually. So, anyway, yeah. They're also doing a Goodbye Forza 6, which I forgot to mention. A Goodbye Forza 6, so they're going to do one more Forza Friday. This will be their last time doing Forza 6 before they switch over to Forza 7. And that's 3 p.m. Yeah, I wonder if that's not today. Either way, that's in the article too, so you guys can check that out. So thank you guys, appreciate it. And this is all the new stuff that I could find. More demo stuff to come tomorrow. I'll have a couple more videos. I actually turned the camera shake off, and I have a video coming with that, so you can kind of analyze that. So thank you guys for checking it out. Subscribe if you like my content. Check out my other stuff. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.